We're moving the first public hearing to the 19th of January. And I believe the second hearing, which will be before the board, would be February the 7th. We will be sending out notices to residents throughout the entire Lake Avalon rural settlement, as we did for tonight's meeting. And there's also some property owners just outside the settlement that were included as courtesy notifications. So I just wanted to get that housekeeping out of the way.
I do have a question. So there's a lot of residents within Lake County that's adjacent to the rural settlement. Is there any way that you could expand those notices to come to us as well?
We could.
We're all on Wilson Peters.
Yeah, I would leave that up to the commissioner. If she would like for us to expand it, we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's get just one later. Just show me where.
Okay.
Yep. Just let us know, and that way we can talk to development
and I'll
services.
invite Patient.
Yeah, because we can expand our notification for the public hearing process. So tonight's meeting is for informational purposes. You're going to hear a brief presentation from staff. You'll hear from the applicant, and then we will open up the floor to questions and comments. We ask that everyone be courteous and respectful of each other. Please try to keep your comments short, and that way we can get to everyone in the room first, and then we can come back if there's something you want to expand upon. We try to keep these within an hour's time, so we're going to allow this to go a little over 7. We can go to 7:15, but the school is letting us use this space, so we just need to be respectful of the reservation time and everything. So if I'm going to get started just with the request itself. The application area, it is 5.6 gross acres in size. It is located on the south side of Phil C. Peters Road, the west side of Avalon Road. It is within the Lake Avalon rural settlement itself. The first request is a future land use map amendment request. It's a small scale map amendment, so it requires 2 public hearings. The request is to change it from rural settlement 1 to 5, which allows for 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres, to rural settlement 1 to 2, and commercial. And so the change in the property as requested by the applicant would look something like this here, where you have actually, I'm sorry, that's an error there. It should be 1 to 2 and then commercial. So it should say 1 to 2 and commercial. The second request is to change the zoning from A1, which is a citrus rural district, and that request is to go to plan development, and the plan development would be for the small section being proposed for commercial, and the northern half would remain the A1 district. And the reason that they are going plan development on the zoning is required under our Lake Avalon commercial development standards. And of course, the applicant with this request, because they're looking to split the zoning and split in the land use, the 1.32 acres being proposed for commercial, they're looking at some commercial enterprises that I'm sure he can go in a little more detail on. And then the northern half is 4.28 acres, and they're proposing 2 homes for that section of the property. I think that's it in general terms what the request is. Chris, did I miss anything that you?
No, it's pretty straightforward. I think pretty simple request.
I'll yield to you, and then up here, I think we have the same thing you have, which just kind of shows the breakup of the application request.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Chris Roper. I am a property owner on this 5.3 acres with my family. We've owned it for 10 years. My family is friends with the Olmsteads who used to own it, and they sold it to us. I have 2 boys. We go out here every once in a while, and we pick up old tires and bricks that people have laid on it, and basically try to keep it as clean as we can. We have now a professional landscaper who's been mowing it once a month, so hopefully it's looking a lot better than it has when we first acquired it. So we hung on to it for a long time. Recently decided that it's a little bit much for me and my boys to mow And like I said, we had to hire somebody, and so we're looking to do something with it, basically. I'm no planner, I'm no developer. I am a real estate attorney, but again, I'm no developer, I'm just an owner. I put together a plan that had 5 lots, plus a much smaller commercial piece. And the reason for the 5 lots is because the county's comprehensive plan and the rules, they allow 1 acre lots in the rural settlement. And we thought that that would be a good fit for this.
Grandfather, we're in the rural settlement.
It allows, under the regulations, I mean, it requires a comp plan and a rezone, I understand that. But this is probably the busiest intersection in the rural settlement.
Yes.
And we're at the hard corner, so we thought the 1 acre lots would be appropriate. And on the county's advice, and especially the district commissioners, we polished up our plan. I went and met with all of the neighbors, the ones that are immediately adjacent, and then a couple lots over, all the way down to here. I had a very long, productive conversation with the HOA president, Mrs. Forrester.
Right here.
Oh, hi. How are you? Nice to see you. And so, I mean, this has been for the last 6 months working on that, and the overwhelming response, folks, was that 1 acre lots is not a good fit for the community. So I was asked overwhelmingly to try to just continue the existing development pattern as much as possible. What's already out there, just try to continue it. So it's not a hard shift one way or another, just try to blend in as much as possible. And so that's what we've tried to do. We are proposing a rural settlement designation of 1 to 2 on the northern 4.5 acres. That will allow a maximum of 2 residential lots. Okay, and so the rural settlement 1 to 2, as you can see, is already what's around us to the south and to the west. There is rural settlement 1 to 1, I mean, immediately to the north, but that is technically on the north side of Phil C. Peters, and we wanted to continue the existing development pattern as much as possible. And so, like I said, the north half of this all probably split down the middle. 1 house here, 1 house here. And then we still had the 1.3 acres left over. And so for that, I mean, we could keep it as agriculture and apply for a special exception for a church or a nursery. But we thought that given the comprehensive plan, which allows for commercial in the rural settlement, this is probably going to be the best spot for commercial when it does come in the rural settlement. Again, it is the busiest intersection. It happens to be the last vacant parcel outside of the Wekiva study area. And the Wekiva study area line it ends right here on the north side of Phil C. Peters. Everything north, you're in a sensitive recharge area. And all of this is going to be well and septic. So it just made better sense environmentally. It made better sense, I think, from an overall planning standpoint, that if the county, like I said, allows the commercial, this would be the best spot for it. We've got village land use designation over here to the east. In this pocket here, aside from the Park Square development that's to the north, also in the rural settlement, they're doing 1 to 1. Aside from that, this is the most intense area in the rural settlement, the way it exists today. And so we thought that the commercial wasn't going to be as big of an impact, right, given the location. Speaking of the commercial, the county regulations limit the maximum building size for any commercial in the rural settlement to 3,000 square feet. And so that's right on the plan. The maximum square footage would be 3,000 square feet. It allows C1 uses, which is light commercial, and it allows PO uses, which is professional office. So light commercial examples are restaurant, but not a drive-through restaurant. No banks, no check cashing. I mean, the list of prohibited uses that are prohibited in the rural settlement is longer than the list that's allowed. Okay, so we're talking with a feed and seed store, and have been for a while now, and I can't guarantee that's what's going to come, but that's where it's trending. So refeed and seed would be allowed here. The county regulations, the county worked really hard on this. This was 13 years ago. They said that if you're going to do commercial in the rural settlement, you have to comply with very strict architectural standards. Okay, so not only is your building size capped at 3,000 square feet, and not only are you limited to well and septic, which pretty much throws out all your national tenants, you also have to comply with very strict architectural standards, and those standards are intended to make the commercial building look like a house. Basically a country-style, rural-style house. It requires front porch. I've got a whole list of all the requirements. I mean, not all of them, but they just give you a flavor for what the county regulations require. It requires a front porch with railings, roof treatments and overhang eaves. It regulates the color of the building. It has to be limited to beige, yellow, rose, or such similar light colors, and natural materials such as stone, wood, or brick. And again, this only applies for the commercial. If we did a nursery instead, we wouldn't have to go through all this and color this red. I mean, it would still be green. And I wouldn't have to comply with the architectural standards. But again, I don't want to make the most utilization out of the property. I want to make a reasonable utilization, right? And I don't want to underutilize it either. I try to get it right there to get that right fit. I'm local. I mean, I was born in Orlando. My entire life I've lived in Orlando except for college in Gainesville. Don't hold that against me, but I'm a Gator. But yeah, I mean, my whole family, I have a huge family. And I get asked a lot if I'm related to the Ropers in Winter Garden. By the way, I don't think I am. As far as I know, I'm not. So I guess I get that asked all the time. So I'm not a Winter Garden Roper, I'm not a planner, I'm not a developer. Like I said, I'm just an owner trying to do something with the property. And like I said, I shopped around a plan. I got a lot of conversation back and forth on it. I did get some support, okay, I did. But like I said, the overwhelming said, look, minimize your impacts to Phil C. Peters. So I've done that. I got 2 houses maximum on a road that extends 2 miles. Okay, so the impact, traffic planning has already told me it's de minimis. I mean, as far as regulations go, it doesn't even count, right? Because it doesn't move the needle. And it's the same thing with the commercial. It's 3,000 square foot on 1.3 acres. That calculates to an FAR of 0.05, right? Not 0.5, 0.05. That is incredibly minimal in terms of building size on land. So, like I said, would love to hear the input. I don't have my old plan. I was looking around in my bag. Some of you may have seen it. I know, Laura, you saw it. You saw it too?
No, I had a question if you're.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
So I'm sorry, I'm probably new to this, but I'm still at A. You're wanting, what is it that you're wanting to do to the property? Change the zoning of it from rural? Can you just tell me what the 2 points are in the simplest terms and as low as you can?
Sure.
Please, like I'm a 5-year-old.
Sure. So each property in Orange County, as well as throughout the state of Florida, they have 2 things. They have a future land use designation, which is vision for the property, tells how the property can be used. And then you have zoning, which regulates specific uses, setbacks, building heights, those types of things. So with this request, the applicant is looking to change the future land use, the vision for the site, from rural settlement 1 to 5, which
1
means
to 5 meaning what?
1 to 5 meaning 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres.
Thank you. Okay.
So, and they want to change that to where 4.28 acres would be rural settlement 1 to 2. It says 1 to 5 here, so disregard that. And then commercial for the 1.32 acres on the southern part of the property.
Thank you.
So
And
that-
then I think Chris mentioned a feed seed.
So-
What is that? I don't think I know that.
Oh, it's like a hardware store that sells feed for your horses and your sheep, and seed for, if you want to plant hay in your yard. They also sell ducks. Okay, so the folks that we're talking to, I went and looked at the ducks. Now my kids want ducks. But I've been in this little wrangle with the county staff about, can I allow some outdoor storage for the duck pen and the hay bales that have to get stacked up outside behind the building, but that has to have a roof over it so they don't get all soggy wet. And the staff is telling me that counts towards the 3,000 square foot maximum on the building. So that's been an issue, but we'll work it out. We're working it through. I think at the end of the day, I'll probably have to request a waiver, District Commissioner, as a heads up, to allow for some storage in the back and not have it count towards my 3,000 square feet.
I'm sorry, are you selling that property?
No, sir, we don't have any plans to sell it right now.
So you're gonna give it to them to use?
Well, we're gonna.
Or they're gonna
lease
rent it to you?
Yeah, we're gonna try to
No, I
build
mean-
it and lease it to the operator.
And you really wanna build one house, right?
Two houses.
Two houses.
No, you have a house on it already.
No,
Oh, is that-
There's no house.
There's nothing.
And the other two properties which do have, was it 1 to 2?
Yeah.
Was that separated before or after the rural settlement?
Before.
Everything is
Oh,
before.
Everything's
before.
before.
Everything is before.
None of this is,
Oh, okay. So
These
this
were all
is,
grandfathered in.
violation of what we all agreed.
Yeah, because everything else down the road is 1 to 5.
Yeah.
Comprehensive plan came into existence in 91. So we didn't have future land use associated with properties up until 1991. It was just zoning. So after the passage of the Growth Management Act of 85, every local government, county, town, city, they were required to adopt a comprehensive plan. And through the comprehensive plan, land use designations were also given to explain the vision.
Okay, so I want to say something because I feel like I have to be the translator because our planning people are really brilliant, but sometimes it sounds like gobbledygook. So the comprehensive plan, if you can imagine, it is the kind of the blueprint. Zoning doesn't change unless somebody wants to do something to alter the blueprint. Okay, so that is why those are two separate things. And I think when you see a rezoning, it means somebody wants to do something with their land, whereas in the comprehensive plan, what something is identified as for future land use, it's in the blueprint. And that's why when you see, that there's two processes that they are putting together, just because there's something that needs to be updated in the comprehensive plan as well as in zoning. Did I translate? Does that make sense?
But that's not a given.
No, that's the application. No, this is the process. That is the application that's coming forward. That is why we're doing this, because there's a process that requires the applicant, the landowner, to say, this is the use that I think would be the most, the highest and best use, based on the parameters that are put into place by this future land use map. And so this is the exact first step of that process as far as public engagement. Now, Mr. Roper described his engagement with the county because he has been trying to figure out sort of what is going to work based on that future land use map. And as you all know, in the rural settlement, it's different. It's different. The rules are very specific, and they're, I think this area, once again, they're so well informed about it because there's been so much encroachment on that. So they know their future land use map designations really well.
Can I just ground everybody real quick on the rural settlement? So all the 1 acre lots, 2.5 acres, 5, whatever they are, and Avalon Ridge, which is the Park Square Homes subdivision. That was owned by One Bag One, so that's 70 acres, prior to us becoming a rural settlement. We were actually supposed to have a rural settlement come all the way to Tilden Road, etc., all the way. As people started dropping out from the eastern side into the western side, in order to keep the Bag One property within the rural settlement, we had to make an agreement with him that we would do 1 home per 1 acre kind of thing. So on that 70 acres, he would have been able to put 70 homes. That was negotiated in 1999 with Bag One. We became officially a rural settlement in 2004 with the blessing of the county and everything in 2004. I met with Avalon Ridge and Park Square Homes 10 times, and we went from 70 homes down to 46 homes. So they did lower their number of homes within that rural settlement. The other thing that we did was say, it would have had to be even less than that had they done well and septic. So they spent $2 million to drag city, Orange County water and sewer from Tiny Road to Avalon Ridge, so they will not be on septic or sewer. That was done prior to us becoming a rural settlement. So Avalon Ridge was a done deal based on our need to stop the bleeding before we actually became a rural settlement to keep that property in. So if you see a 1-to-1, if you see a 1-to-2, 1-to-2.5, whatever it is, that was all grandfathered in because that's what it was when we became a rural settlement. So the 1-to-1 on Avalon Ridge, the Park Square, is not actually 1-to-1 anymore because there's not 70 homes, there's 46. Okay, so I just want to get everybody grounded, although it's like, oh, well, that's a 1 acre, that's a 1 acre, that's a 1 acre, they're all one. No, that's what people owned when we became a rural settlement. So Fat Lady had sung about everything, all the land that is in there at this point.
The other thing I want to mention, just from a planning standpoint, is the comp plan is like Commissioner mentioned, it's a blueprint, it's a vision. It's a vision for a county or a city or a town over a 20, 30, or even 50-year planning horizon. Within that document, there's various policies, goals, objectives, and they run the gamut on topics. And so we do have a whole host of policies that apply to rural settlements, and we actually have policies that are applicable to, that call out specific issues for Lake Avalon.
So hang on a second, because we had some other questions and
So I want to mention
back there.
A couple questions just to help make sure I'm thinking straight. So right now, we are one house per 5, or technically 4.86.
Yes.
Whatever that
We
is.
split your 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's where we're at right now, correct?
Right.
Okay, my understanding of what you wanted to do was to put 2 houses on here. Now I heard something about 5, now I'm hearing something about 3. So I'm confused on what actually what he wants to do with this property. It should only have 1 house on it.
Yeah, I'll let Chris answer, but initially he looked at doing 5 homes, each with 1 acre.
But doesn't our rules for our area say 1 house per 5 acres?
Well, the policy says that the 1 to 5 land use designation shall be the predominant designation within the rural settlement.
Yes,
That's what he
So-
wanted to do initially. He changed his plan after speaking to different people to just have 2 houses on
2
that.
houses.
But that was his initial vision.
That was his initial.
It's my-
Yeah, he still has to get permission. I mean, as a property owner, you can submit a land use map amendment request. You can submit a rezoning request, and you have to go through the process we're going through, which is a staff review, a community meeting, a minimum of 2 public hearings. If we had more than 10 or more acres, we would be in a large-scale map amendment requirement, which would have 4 public hearings.
So how do we get our settlement rules and regulations to have more teeth? I mean, if we were doing what our rules and regulations said, we wouldn't be here tonight.
No, I mean, I think that's a really fair question, and I will say that I think that with the overall comprehensive plan patchwork that we have in Orange County, that the Avalon Rural Settlement actually does have the most teeth, which tells you that that's why.
How many fights have we been in?
I know, but I think what I'm saying is that this wouldn't even be out here in 98% of the county for this type of engagement. So the idea of, property rights and someone who owns their property and wanting to do something with it, there's a right that they have to say, can I do this? And then there's a process, because those property rights, they're strong. Now, once again, what you're seeing is the conflict between the use property rights with the existing restrictions on a piece of property, right? Those are restricted.
Right,
based
because
on
we have a
central land use
vision
and zoning.
for our area, as the county has a vision for our area.
Yep.
And we don't see eye to eye all the time.
Well, no, and that's why, and that
Why we
is.
had this process.
That's it. So that, I mean,
So that goes back to, why can't we have more teeth in our thing to avoid stuff like that?
And we moved to this area because we wanted to live like this.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, especially me, and everybody else probably, but me. I'm talking about me, I don't care about right now me. I moved because I wanted to be on 5 acres and be alone.
Right.
And not have
Exactly.
apartments
Amen,
next to
brother.
me and have my kids safe running around. They can go to the street and run
Yes.
because I know there's not traffic running through. And we still have to fight, like he's saying about the teeth, because we're fighting in Colt Lane with
Yeah.
Boyd and with
No, and I-
all this, and they
Listen.
changed the rules.
And I'm with you every step of the way, but I want to make sure you understand also that on your piece of property, that if you decide that you want to add a garage, if you want to add a driveway,
You have
then
to
you would
ask for a
come to
permit.
us and you
Right.
would say, it's my property.
Right.
I should be able to do what I want to with it, right?
Yeah, but
Because, what
can't.
I'm explaining is
Yeah.
that the idea of property rights,
Right.
there is a wide scope. It's a very, we call it a bundle, right? There's a
Right.
bundle of rights that
Right.
people get to exercise. And so the important part is that we have processes that give us the security, which is what you were looking for, of the underlying use, that somebody can't just come in and do whatever they want to do without asking. And then the engagement with the public, so they understand what the intent of the community is, what does fit, what is the character. So, I think that we, understanding that having all of those things readily available to anybody that buys property, it's not a surprise to you, right? You knew what that was zoned.
right.
And that's the part I think people need to understand, that your teeth, when you say teeth, what does that mean? Well, it's notice to anyone buying, right? That you're not gonna be able to put condos or apartments, or, because you are buying this, and this is, this has come up with other applications where we've seen some very, I think, a bigger stretch of where people think they wanted to go in there. And it was a realistic conversation I had with those applicants. Were you informed when you looked at this piece of property for an investment that it was limited based on its current future land use map and its zoning? And, and I think that's how we allow some predictability in the marketplace with people being able to buy and sell their home and what you can do on your own property.
Yeah. He has the right to request, but staff then reviews the request against the policies and the comp plan. So as you'll see in our staff report, as we move closer to the public hearing, we will print the staff report about 1 week prior, and we actually make it available for the public to see well in advance, at least a week out from the first public hearing. Our staff report will reference the policies which will guide our staff recommendation for this.
All right, so we've got some more questions.
Yes, do you have some down here first?
Sorry.
We'll move around. I promise we'll get to everyone.
It's kind of a two-part. You talked about making the feed store cute and fitting in with everything.
If it's a feed store.
But what about and if you're talking about one of the busiest corners here, and then all this added traffic, so how are you gonna alleviate all that traffic and help us be able to get home when you wanna have all these people coming in? Because obviously you want shoppers. And
Yeah,
also, what company are you negotiating with as far as the fees?
We have plenty of these.
yeah, like I said, I can't guarantee feed store. I'm talking with one
I
feed
know,
store
but
operator.
I'm asking if that's what you're proposing.
Yeah.
How is it gonna help, how are we gonna be protected, and what company are you negotiating with for the feed store?
The only guarantee we got is what we do here tonight.
I'm asking what he thinks. I'm not asking what's gonna happen. We
Well,
all know
whoever-
what we're gonna try to make happen. I wanna know what his ideas are.
Whoever the final end user is, okay, that fits in that box of the C1 or the PO and isn't disallowed by the prohibited uses, whoever that user is going to have to submit an application for transportation concurrency review. Okay, that goes to the gentleman's department there. They review that to make sure that there's enough capacity on the roads, and this is hard. Even 2-lane roads have a lot of capacity. In a 3,000 square foot building, it still will be reviewed, right, for
It's
impacts.
not, but the building, my 2,600 square foot building has one car going in and out. Just because of the size of the building, has no idea how many cars are gonna go in and out if it's a business.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So,
Basically, I'm
yeah,
telling you, we're not gonna let this
a
happen.
commercial use, generate more trips, okay, than a house. And I'm remiss because I forgot to mention that there's the range of uses would also allow for a church, okay, that would also be allowed.
Okay, wait, we had some other
The
questions.
church would generate far less than the commercial.
Okay.
That whole office would generate far less than the
So
commercial.
time out, let's be respectful of everyone's time, because I want to make sure that we're answering questions sort of in a uniform way, so if we're coming this way up the line, is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Okay, do you have questions?
I'm confused because you talked about different businesses, but earlier you said that you weren't gonna sell that commercial property. So I'm confused as to what your plans are after, if you get the request.
All right, well,
In the zoning, because you're saying that you're not gonna sell and you're gonna maybe be in business with another company. Are you gonna be building for that other company? But now you're talking about a church that.
well, so you guys ask a lot of detailed questions, and I respect that. It's just that a lot of that stuff has yet to be figured out. But here's what I'm thinking now, right? I'll be totally transparent with you. The plan is to sell the 2 residential lots, use those funds to build a commercial building with a tenant we've already negotiated with and have signed a lease with. And then we will lease that building to that commercial tenant.
And so how do we know for sure that we would actually get a feed store? Because honestly, a feed store in this area.
can't-
Can't, that's the problem.
There's a range of uses
Yes.
under C1. There's also a
Could
list
be a
of
feed store,
prohibited
but
uses.
it could be anything
So
else.
if everybody signed
Should be
in
a-
here tonight, or if you are getting my newsletter, what we'll do, I've got Hannah and Drew from my office here, raise your hand, small D1 staff right here. Is what we'll do is make sure that we send out what's currently considered a use under the description of the comprehensive plan. The other thing we'll do, because I think it's helpful, is send out an aerial. I love my plan division people, they're very great, but it's like color by numbers maps that we get sometimes, and I'm like, I want an aerial, what's there, what does it look like? So we'll send that out also, so you can kind of get a better feel for that lay of the land.
The other thing I'll say with the land use plan that's being reviewed as part of the rezoning request, it's a plan development, there can be conditions placed on that land use plan. And of course, there will be a reference to, C1 and professional office, for example, and there can be negotiations between staff. That's actually, that's a separate, it's not part of the rezoning request, it's separate from the land use.
Okay, was there somebody, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Liz.
Mr. Roper, I live on Sand Hill. So were you aware of the 1 to 5 when you purchased the property?
Yes,
And what was your intended use at that time when you purchased it
just to buy it and hold on to it.
and sell it later?
That's
Is that right?
Yeah.
Were you ever planning to live there?
We have thought about it, yeah.
But your intended use in purchasing the property was to subdivide it and sell it. Is that correct?
We didn't have that foresight at the time. This was 13 years ago. We just knew that it was a great location.
But you weren't gonna build a house there, right? Like, I guess that's what you're saying.
Well,
That
we
was
have
never your
definitely
plan.
thought about it. My wife and I mean, it's a little bit busy is kind of what we've landed on.
So now you're gonna make it busier for the people that live there.
We're having one house on 5 acres right here. This road gets a lot of traffic.
So there's a hornet's nest somewhere, but I think you may have just
Chick.
taken it.
So you've been sitting on that property for 10 years with no real plans to build a house on it, otherwise you would have by now. Right? Right? Yes?
I mean, I don't know.
You were
Sometimes
aware, you were aware of the 1 to 5 when you purchased that property.
That's sure. That's for sure.
That's it.
So the rural settlement 1 to 5 designation, this is what's shown right here. It's an island of 1 to 5. It's got village, future land use.
No, it's actually not,
It's not
there are,
built.
they are all 1 to 5. The only one, and this is what Lori was explaining, that it's not, are the ones that are abutting the municipality, that are abutting Winter Gardens annexation for specifically that Park Square, so that they wouldn't opt out back when they first came in. So the 1 to 5 is the majority of the land in the Avalon.
Well, there's no doubt. Yeah, I mean, Avalon
I think
rural
you're talking about the
settlement is 2,500
Wait.
acres.
I think he was talking about the adjoining.
Yeah, it's 2,500 acres. The vast majority is rural settlement 1 to 5.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this specific parcel,
Okay.
5 acres at 2,500.
I see what you're saying.
Around it is all, like I said, rural settlement 1 to 1, 1 to 2, and village. So it's an island of 1 to 5 at the busiest intersection in the rural settlement. And there's a reason that the comp plan allows for commercial is because not everybody in the rural settlement, again, 2,500 acres, not everybody wants to drive 3 miles to go to the super Walmart, right? Some folks
Yeah.
want.
We'll drive farther if
We always might say 3 miles. No, we'd be okay with driving more than 3 miles.
Some folks might appreciate having either feed and seed or a restaurant, right? A restaurant would be allowed.
I can tell you if you put a commercial there, nobody here is gonna go out of business immediately. Because nobody here is going to support a commercial in what we are. So whatever you build there is never gonna survive
Okay,
because
so
we'll make sure that no one will
Let's
ever
keep going
go.
with the questions. I want to be respectful of everybody that has
Right there, you,
questions.
yes.
Liz.
So in going through this process, you want to cut it into 3 parcels, does that become 3 new parcel numbers?
He'd have to do a lot split after, if it gets
So it becomes 3
approved.
new owners to the 5 acres?
No, he could keep it, he could split.
Well, he could, but.
He could, I mean, he could split it to where
He already
he
said
owns
he
3
wants to
parcels.
sell the 2.
Yeah.
Okay,
What
and
do you
he
want?
wants to own
That's
the
right.
commercial, so I'm just trying to understand that. When we talk about how you said Phil C. Peters, I like the word you used about how it was,
Busy?
not busy. You said, what word did you say? Started with a D. I liked that word, it was a big one. Anyways, if,
The impact.
the minutes, thank you.
Yeah, the
Thank you.
impact generated from this.
No matter what goes there, whether it's a house or commercial, down Phil C. Peters is about to be 600 homes built that we know is gonna try to come out on Phil C. Peters and drive to. So it's all, your commercial is not, it doesn't mean where you wanna go, it's gonna still be busy. You just admitted it's too busy for you to live there, but it's okay for you to build something that still makes it busy for all the other residents that are living there, and that's what I don't understand. If you're coming here to say you wanna help the community, you openly just admitted why you didn't build there or live there.
Well, I'm different than a lot of other people, right? I mean, there's folks that live here on the corner on 1 acre.
Oh, I also find it very interesting that 4 residents
Yes.
around here are all selling. So I want
Everybody's
to know
selling.
what they're all selling.
Yeah.
Because
Everybody's
4 houses are all selling, active, pending,
Right,
or they just sold, all surrounding your property.
right.
The 5 acres below you and 3 acres above you.
Do we know who bought them?
Okay, so.
All right, let's, Miss, right here.
Just out of curiosity,
Am I serious?
that's actually a prime lot. You're looking for
100%.
Miss, sorry, we're going on to the next
Sorry.
question here.
That's a prime
Go
lot
on.
there. If you were looking for investment property, why wouldn't you sell that out as a 5-acre lot and go invest
Make the
somewhere else? Leave the residential, the rural settlement as rural. It's a diamond in the rough. There's not much of it, but there's a whole opportunity, and that actually is a
They're making good money
valuable
for it.
piece of land right now.
Especially when he bought it.
They're making at least 5
It
times
doesn't
what
really
you
fit
paid
what you
for.
want to do, like, I have invested property as well, why wouldn't you take the money out of there and go invest it in a commercial, a proper commercial lot somewhere else? Wouldn't that be easier than? You've been through a lot, and believe me, it doesn't get any prettier. Wouldn't it be easier to take it out?
Would it be easier? Yes.
Yeah.
But we don't want to sell it. I mean, like I said, I want to hang on to this piece.
Now, as a 1 to
To
5.
make this-
I'm not saying 1 to 2, I'm not saying commercial, sell it as is, 1 to 5, people are looking for 5-acre lots, that's a gem of the rough.
Yeah,
Yes, it has-
it's a severe underutilization of the property, though. I mean, it's.
Get out of here. They're not gonna care about it. You just wanna make money.
Hey, guys, so I think he understands that you all know, I mean, what they're trying to express is that what you're calling underutilization is what they're calling their value.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a perspective difference on the investment portion of this and what the character of the rural community and the 1 to 5 is the value.
Okay.
So I think we can all agree that there's just some different descriptions in that, and let me go on. Okay, there's some questions, this gentleman right here.
Anyone who has not spoke, please raise your hand, because we'll come back.
The gentleman right here.
All right, basically, didn't we go through this just to take 10 acres and make it 5?
Yes.
I think that was a couple of meetings I went with that.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So I lean kind of towards libertarian, like he said, you should be able to use your own land the way you want it. So I got 2.5 acres. Can I come back to you now and split it to 1.25 and make a little bit more money?
Yeah, right.
Yes, we're going here.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through everyone who hasn't spoken. Yes, hi.
I'm very concerned that if the rezoning is approved, that it's opening Pandora's box, so to speak, for everyone else in the rural settlement to come and chip away at us. And soon there'll be no more rural settlement. And that doesn't, if it is approved, doesn't that set a dangerous precedent for the rest of the rural
An
settlement?
insurmountable precedent.
Yeah, it's a very common question and common statement that we hear at meetings, particularly with rural settlements.
And I will
So-
tell you, as somebody on the board side, whenever I hear anything and they say, well, this is what we did here, there, and there, and they try to use it as precedent, we follow code, we follow laws. We are not the Supreme Court. We shouldn't be using precedent. That's not what you do at this level. Precedent isn't for review of development. It's for, court cases, because these are we have specific rules and laws. So those wouldn't be altered. Now, I will say the 10-acre, what happened was, and that was driven by residents that weren't quite at 10. They were at 9 and change, and didn't allow them. So that was and that only applied to what, like 12 particular
I've
lots?
been almost a lot of these meetings, except when I was gone in the military, since 1972.
Yeah, but that one was really very specifically.
Airports, racetracks.
Yeah.
every other damn thing that they're trying to put in.
So I know that's not helpful, but I just want you to know that it wouldn't, unless we did something to change the overall Avalon rural settlement guidelines, there shouldn't be any reset to anything. But that being said, I would also have that concern. What does this mean for future?
So if somebody came in and
It
said,
would
well,
be-
you did it for him, why can't you do it
It would
for
be
me?
the exact
And
same
they would sue the
process
county.
for.
And then, yeah, exactly.
And someone, and to be fair, someone could come back in at some point and seek changes. They can always request a change to the land use plan. So just transparent, be very transparent with our process. You can do that on any property. You can look around the county and say, oh, they have professional office. I want to try to change it to commercial, or they have PD zoning on there, what's allowed under the land use plan. And if they want to change something, they can come through this process, which would be community meetings, public hearings, review by
So it's the
staff.
same process, right?
Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken?
I was just gonna
Okay.
say what she was saying, is I think our main, problem with this is we split this lot up and then it's just a snowball effect, and then other people see that and it just keeps worse and worse, so. 2 houses in the big scheme of things, it's not a big deal, but that's the problem, it just opens up the door.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to make 2.5 comments.
Okay.
Number one, if you buy something in Horizon West, your basic expectation is you will have a subdivision in your backyard, you will have an institutional, whether it's a school, a commercial, whether it's Walmart, that you'll have a 4-lane road in your backyard. That is a basic expectation of anyone who builds anything or buys anything in Horizon West. The basic expectation of anyone that buys in a rural settlement is that whatever the flume is, 1 per 5, or you were grandfathered in.
Future land use map.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
gonna go acronym,
Sorry.
acronym-free zone here.
I know,
Future land
sorry.
use map.
I'm just so used to talking to you guys. The basic expectation is if you are next door to a 1 to 5, you will be next door to a 1 to 5. That is the basic expectation of anybody who buys into a rural settlement. They know it's a rural settlement. They have purchased in a rural settlement because they want this particular lifestyle. We are being bombarded, as everyone in this room knows, and probably you guys, with people who want to, as I refer to it as Delta, another acronym. Delta stands for destroy every living tree around. So, that's what Delta is.
Okay, we don't have to, we can use that acronym.
We can use Delta. And so that's what I am seeing is I am so tired, as the president of our homeowners association, I am constantly being bombarded with people. I'm constantly talking to them saying, this will be a fight and we will fall on swords because we are the ones that live here, okay? I don't care that Phil C. Peters is a line of demarcation for the Wekiva. You are talking 12 inches to this property, okay? So to me, I don't buy that as an argument. The second thing I want to say is That road is getting 4-lane. Avalon Road is getting 4-lane. He no longer has 5.6 acres.
Right.
Have a nice day. To my understanding from the traffic folks, anything that has a county or a state or a federal designation on the road, Phil C. Peters does, it's a county road, must have turn lanes, which means on the top of his property, there will be a right-hand turn lane.
Wait, we got transportation here. Oh, who's in transportation? Oh, hi. Every now and then these questions come up. I'm like,
So one of the things that Brian Sanders has committed to us is that we would be in the loop completely on the 4-laning of Avalon Road. That notwithstanding, this is on Avalon and Phil C. Peters, so he no longer will have 5.6 acres. There's going to be some kind of an easement, et cetera, that will cut into his right-of-way, sorry, right-of-way. Then the third thing that I want to say is, I understand, a special exception to my understanding is something that you cannot have a precedent on, like a school or church. Each one has to be looked at individually. I get that. Yeah, I get that. But when he's turning around and saying he wants to go from 1 to 5 to 1 to 2, and then a 1 to 1.38 or whatever it is, okay, that is going to be an insurmountable precedent for us because he's not asking for something that is a Rupala issue, okay? And this has nothing to do with Rupala. So somebody who says, I got 5 acres over here, and they turn around and say, you let him have it, I'm gonna sue Orange County. Whether or not they win, because they're like, no, you gave it to him, you need to give it to me. It's just this tumbleweed. Yeah, it's just.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and I get that you're not supposed to look at it.
No, I know what you're saying. But I think it's important also, I mean, the special exception they're describing, there was there's been a few recent cases that came through as special exceptions in the area. And so that process, we're all more familiar with than we ever wanted to be, and this isn't that. I think it's an interesting contrast because truly, if a future land use map is changed, no matter what happens here, it's always now that. And so I do think that it's different that way where, it doesn't revert back. Right. So, I mean, it's something, educationally for, I think, us to think about and for.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I would say this process we're going through right now with this 5 acres is more rigorous than the special exception process. Requires way more hearings and multiple applications.
And there were people
My question is,
keep jumping around. So
Mr. Roper, I think you've done a good job of, presenting yourself as a local, not a builder. But I think part of the concern is you have commercial aspirations for this lot. You may sell it. The person you sell it to might not be a local who was born here, go Gators, went to the University of Florida. And then the vision that you have for this seed could turn into a church, potentially.
Absolutely, yes.
Right, okay, so while I think we appreciate that you are kind of trying to meet us where we are, the future is, there's no guarantee for what could happen. And I was gonna ask you, Commissioner Wilson, I understand what you're saying about like not having precedent, right, not being a court setting. But I think one of the things that y'all mentioned is that part of what goes into the consideration is the character of the area, is the outlay of the area. So not only is it raise a potential for someone else filing a lawsuit saying I'd be treated differently, but then you also have changed the character of the area, and that can
be a basis.
Be considered later when there's a future request. Well, it's not totally rural now. We already have a commercial lot. That is to just add.
No, I think that's a very.
Is that something that you considered, Mr. Roper, since I know you were trying to take into account some of these things?
Well, yeah, look, I'm just following the regulations that are already there because, like I said, the comp plan allows for the commercial. We thought this would be a good location
You're right,
for it.
and I appreciate, we're thankful that you're here, that you're doing this legally. That's fantastic, and we thank you for being here. But I guess what I want to know is you're saying, I respect the area, I take into consideration what it is and what it could be. Have you thought about the fact that putting a commercial lot there may change the character of the area? Have you considered that, or is that something that you're kind of hearing for the first time?
Okay, I've definitely heard that before, and that goes along with the feedback, which was to continue the existing development pattern, right? And so that's why we put the commercial here, away from the hard corner, down here, to attract non-national, we want the mom and pops, right? So when you're driving northbound, say on Avalon Road, you're gonna pass by a church and a nursery and a horse stable that's under construction, and then, oh my gosh, maybe a feed and seed store, or a small restaurant that doesn't allow a drive-through that would be a mom and pop type style on a 1.3 acres, right? So plenty of parking, not a very intensive use. And then a house, and then a house.
2 houses, right?
House here, I mean, yes, the other one's probably gonna be over here, but like I say, when you're just driving up Avalon, in other words, it's gonna fit with what you're seeing already out there.
Because you're gonna see a parking lot, that doesn't.
We're not asking to put the commercial
Not
on
only that,
Wilson Peters.
but you're saying about the traffic.
Right?
But
You
you're
understand that there are no commercial lots
So
there,
let's
right?
Let him respond.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we need to make sure that he is hearing distinct.
Yes,
some
and-
distinct feedback.
And we are also running low on time as
Oh,
well.
yeah, geez.
We can, so.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer, but what I'm saying is there are no commercial lots in that area. There's going to be one there, and that, you agree that changes it, right? I mean,
It will be the first commercial,
right.
commercial, right? Like I said, nurseries, churches, they're already there. The horse barn, the large residential subdivision up here. But like I said, the regulations are there for a reason. They try to take the commercial and make it as compatible as possible with what's already out there. And again, this is currently a 2-lane road. And Mrs. Forrester is correct, it will be a 4-lane road at some point. The county is asking for the right-of-way conveyance from this piece already. And so, commercial at such a small scale, 3,000 square feet within a 2,500 acre village, like I said, it's de minimis. It's already been envisioned with the blueprint, okay? It may not have been envisioned right here at this exact location because it hasn't landed at a spot yet, but it's there. It's already been dreamt up because there are some residents in the settlement that would appreciate being able to walk to the post office. Okay? That's allowed. Walking to the restaurant.
Okay, we have a couple more questions over here, and then one right here.
So I think the big message is nobody in this room wants any type of commercial type business in our backyards. We drive through there every single day. We already have enough traffic as it is. And y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no commercial business that I want that's 2 miles away from my house that I can't go down another 2.5 miles to Hamlin or 2.5 miles into Winter Garden to purchase and to get whatever we need. Because our land, our properties are very sacred to us. We want to be able to have our families riding their horses down the road. And even if you think that this is a small impact, it is a huge impact on our community. You may not realize it because you don't live there, and I get it, you're here, whatever. But we live right there. The other thing I want to say is, devil's advocate, if it gets passed, what are you gonna do to help us in our community, to help us with that traffic? Because of, regardless of what's there, a restaurant or whatever, it's not helpful to us at all. It's gonna be helpful to the people in Hamlin that are already having businesses and living in that type of lifestyle. It's not helpful. It's not productive, it's not conducive to our environment that we live in currently, and that's why we live in this area, in that specific area. It's the only area for our horses, our donkeys, all the other animals that we have and our families that we have. What is your response to what I'm saying right now?
Well, in terms of the benefit road-wise, whatever the end user winds up being, they submit a site plan and run it through the concurrency review. If the traffic that's to be generated from the use is sufficient to warrant a turn lane, then it's going to be required, and of course we'll follow the rules. If it's not sufficient to warrant a turn lane, then one's not going to be provided, right? We just play by the rules, whatever they are.
But that's not my question. You said something else, that's fine, but I'm saying the community that we have east of Avalon on St. Peters, that's a one-way other than Riggs, but back there, we're in Lake County, a lot of us are back there too. That's a one-way in, one-way out. So we have all of us come to Phil C. Peters, and now there's still people coming through to get to Phil C. Peters and Avalon. I'm not talking about with the traffic, I appreciate and I respect that, but my question is, what are you doing to help the community that you're trying to invade in? Because what you're doing, this plan is not helpful to our community at all.
Well, like I said, I think there's some benefit to locating commercial here, again, for the residents that may not.
There's a lot of commercial property and there's a lot of commercial leasing in Hamlin that you could absolutely sell your property and make a good amount of money and go lease another property in Hamlin if that's what your business endeavors are. That's the place for your type of business is not in the rural settlement. It's actually in Price West. It's not in Lake Avalon Rural Settlement or the Lake County side that's adjacent to it. I'm just being real.
And I think, yeah, but I think it's, I think making sure that he's got feedback is the important part here. We can certainly, I think, and we can certainly continue to pass along information. I have my cards here. I know you all know that we want to make sure we're hearing and communicating. That is a huge goal. So, I know there's a lot to think about here, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I'll eventually ask the question. Would you be willing to give up the commercial part of this and come back out with another game plan? Because I think that's what, it sounds to me like that is the biggest concern, is what does that mean for the future?
Okay. Then we have to.
We would welcome you and your family to build your personal home here. We will love, honor, and cherish you with your home.
He's too busy.
And we have to wrap this up soon.
And to wrap it up is the same thing. I'm down Phil C. Peters. I bought here, I came from Windermere, knocking on my neighbor's window to shut up or something because it's so close, because I wanted property. I want chickens. My kids go and pick up the eggs in the morning. And you were saying the traffic is not, I've been here since, 12 years now. I could have gotten from Phil C. Peters to Avalon and not look and make a left turn or a right turn. There was no traffic. Today, I stopped there and I have to stop for 15 minutes or more.
And then hold your breath.
And then, nobody's coming to hit me. And you're gonna tell me that a commercial is not gonna have more? Because it's down the road. I'm stopping there because I gotta turn and there's traffic coming, and you want someone to come in here with trucks to deliver and a whole bunch of customers that wanna get in. There's triple the amount of cars. And I understand, you're a businessman, I recommend sell the 5 acres, you'll make 10 times what you paid for it. I can guarantee you that. 10 times. And you avoid all this headache and all this problem. And you, like she said, find something in the lease land and make a business like Rick Boyd does and